Part 1. Dawn. Chapter 1. The Holy City. The Holy City was chiseled from the stone of the desert, rising into the twilight like an outcast in a wasteland. Its dun walls were coated in the dust of ages, and from afar it had seemed a lifeless place, blessed only in its failure to erode into the sands. Yet despite the suffocating clinch of antiquity, despite the dying sun that blanched all things on Jeddah, the city streets were full of color. Red-cloaked shoulders jostled sapphire pauldrons, and jade arms brushed opalescent antennae. Beings of every shape pressed down the cobbled avenues, striding, crawling, marching beneath archways and merchant awnings and listless banners unstirred by the air. The atmosphere was of grief and whispers, but the movement of thousands, the endless footfalls and the rustling of garments created a susurrus like the harbinger of a storm. Someone cried, "The Jedi! The Jedi are gone!" As if it were news. As if they'd vanished from inside their temples that morning and not been slaughtered weeks before in an act of violence and betrayal and cruel vanity. Dressed in a Zetenortha pilgrim's gray wrappings and stook leather boots, Bail Organa, Bail of House Prestor, royal consort to the Queen of Alderaan, father of the crown's heir, once senator of the Galactic Republic and now senator of the Galactic Empire, went unescorted and unrecognized among the mourners, shivering in the winter chill. Deep in the crowd, he was mercifully alone, and even the ghosts who pursued him seemed lost in the throng. The crowd squeezed together. The procession turned a corner and crept down a narrow tunnel. Slits in the primordial brickwork suggested the ruins of a fortress where hidden soldiers might have once fired upon intruders besieging a keep. Bail kept his head bowed to keep from stumbling as much as to avoid the prying eyes of hidden cams. The mob was not swift or belligerent, but it possessed the force and inertia of a glacier. To be caught underfoot was to be crushed. The passage opened into a massive plaza, dominated by an upright stone disc on a great dais. In ordinary times, the plaza harbored beggars and criers and would-be prophets, and the structures surrounding it hosted herbal tea vendors and trinket dealers. It was, Bail had been told, one of 88 such plazas in the Holy City, and unremarkable in its sanctity. Only today, the beggars and criers and prophets and the merchants, too, had fled to make room for the endless procession. Of the thousands of mourners in the plaza, perhaps 100 could squeeze onto the dais, and these crushed together, casting their bodies against the disc and turning it on its axis. Old men pushed on their knees, while a gargantuan cragmaloid panted and groaned as he leaned onto the disc with his shoulders, eyes cast skyward with a look of profound grief. With every quarter turn, a dozen pilgrims scrambled away, and others raced to replace them, ensuring that the grinding of stone went uninterrupted. Weeping and screaming rose from all quarters, as the mourners were overwhelmed by purpose and ritual. "Master Tin!" someone called, and another cried, "Sister!" A third began a litany. "Ali! Oravi! Caladastros!" But mostly, the shouts were wordless and instinctive. Bail was tempted to join the chorus, but his was not a howling grief.